Ladies and gents, welcome back to the JPonComms YouTube channel for another All You Need to Know video. It's been a little while out of the game on these ones, but Maidstone United have finally had a brand new incoming into the side. And of course, as you can tell by the title, that player is Levi Amantchi. Levi Amantchi is a 22-year-old left-footed striker who is 6'5" tall. So definitely adding that big man up front that a lot of people have been asking for in this off season. So we're going to be taking a look in this video, a much deeper dive into what it is that Maidstone might have seen in this player and the reasons behind why we might have brought him in. Of course, looking as well at what we can expect to see from him in this coming season for Maidstone. So let's kick things off with a little look back over his last season. What was it that we've seen in more recent times that Maidstone may have been attracted to try and bring him into this squad? So last season he played for two different teams. He does like the teams beginning with B, R and A by the looks of it. Brackley Town and Braintree were the two sides he featured for last season. Started off the season at Braintree, ended up playing 14 games for them, and scoring 6 goals in that time as well. For Brackley, he did end up playing 22 times and scoring 6 goals again. So last season he featured, of course, in the National League South with Braintree. That's very good for us. Having someone with recent National League South experience is a very good thing for us. Going to have a bit of knowledge about the teams he's going to be facing next year, which could prove quite beneficial to us. He also featured, of course, quite heavily for Brackley, one of the better teams in the National League North, someone who competed towards the top end of that division last season, of course reaching the very latter stages of the playoffs. Ended up, unfortunately, not getting promoted. However, that is what he's going to look to achieve this season with Maidstone, and he did feature quite heavily at times for them too. But let's have a little look at his goal scoring record in particular. Now, I know a lot of people who think that a team will be challenging for the title will expect their striker to be scoring a goal every 2 games, probably, maybe a little bit less if you're really looking at a top tier player. But looking at the face of things, surface level stuff with Levi Amantchi, ended up playing 36 times last season and scoring 12 goals. Now, that is, of course, a goal every 3 games. On the face of it, some people might not be too impressed by that. Personally, I think that's pretty good anyway, just on face value. However, if you take a bit of a deeper dive, which is of course what we do in this series, and look at it as more of a breakdown, you look at it as minutes per goal, it's far more impressive. Now, of course, a lot of people won't really look this deep into stats. They'll see the numbers, they'll see 36 games, they see 12 goals and go, yeah, he's all right. But really, if you broke it down and separated it into per 90 minutes, then these figures are far more impressive than the surface level stuff. For Brackley, he averaged a goal per 90. He averaged 1.390s per goal, so not much more than a goal a game, really. And it was very similar for Braintree too. He ended up having 1.890s per goal. So again, if you're breaking it down per 90, he's getting a goal less than 2 games, every time. So that is what people would be looking for in a title winning striker. You want that level of output. If you're going to replicate that across a 46 game season, a goal every 1.8 to 1.390s, then you're going to be getting a good 30 goals a season. Now, of course, it's very hard to replicate that over a very long period. However, you never know. If Maidstone can be a competitive outfit in the National League South this season, we can return to our former state, of course, our title winning division from a couple seasons ago, then we would, of course, expect a striker to be having a similar level of output. At 25 to 30 goals is something we could expect to see. Now, of course, looking at these stats, you may wonder why his minutes per goal is a little bit better than his appearances per goal. Well, he did feature quite heavily off the bench at times for each of these teams, Brackley and Braintree. He was someone who was quite impactful off the bench. Of course, you do see quite often teams having that backup player being vastly different to what they had on the pitch already, and at 6'5" tall and a left footer, then is quite a big change from what these teams would feature in their regular matchday squad. Now, if Maidstone are going to be having Amantchi as their main focal point, their number one striker, their main number 9 target man in this system, then I think they can expect to see a good level of output from him in the coming season. And I think as well that we can develop our game around him. He isn't just a big man up front, and we'll get onto that in a little bit. But just before we do that, we're going to take a look at his career history today. Of course, we've looked into last season a little bit, but how has he got to where he is right now? How has he ended up? What is his path along the way to get to the Gallagher Stadium? Well, he started off at Wallsend Boys Club. Now, a few people are going to know that name is, of course, from the North East, and that is a club, an academy kind of outfit, very much known for developing players to get them into the professional game. They have had the likes of Alan Shearer and Michael Carrick come through their system as well, and of course many others. So he's got from a very young age a good pedigree there, good coaching and development, and of course that did end up with him moving into professional football. Now, at 17 years of age, he moved to Chesterfield. In the 18-19 season, he ended up playing 11 times for the club. So, of course, at a very young age, that's a very, very big thing to do. Of course, as his size, you'd expect his developmental years to be a little bit sooner than maybe some of his peers. So he had that head start on a few players in his age category, and obviously that proved quite beneficial for him in making that step to Chesterfield. Now, he ended up having a couple loans in that time as well. He got loaned to Blythe, ended up playing a trial game for Middlesbrough under-23s against Newcastle under-23s as well, and in the end ended up on a non-contract deal at Darlington. Ended up moving back to Blythe on a permanent deal, and then at the start of last season ended up at Braintree, which is of course where he was in those stats I explained just a minute ago. So he has had quite a few clubs, predominantly featuring for teams in the more northern reaches of the country. That's definitely the furthest south that he's played. So you can tell he's got a good level of commitment. He's obviously had to kind of upend a little bit, move probably down south. If he wasn't already located down here, you would assume that was the case, having played for many northeastern clubs. But it is good to see that we're getting someone in with a good wealth of experience despite his very young age. Now, for me, it is quite important to have someone who's committed to the cause. Obviously, we saw that like Solwanjo Smith last season, the star last season, signing a 2-year deal, moving over from the Bristol area of the country to the southeast. And, you want that level of commitment from players. You want players who are ready to commit themselves to the cause and are looking to make a big change in their personal lives to try and be as successful as possible in their playing career. Now, taking a look at what key attributes we may have seen from Levi Amantchi in his career, which we might be able to apply to this team for next season. Well, as I've already said, 6'5" tall, very tall player, someone who is very, very useful in and around the box, good hold-up play, good at bringing the ball down. You lump a ball forward, he could get his head on it, nod it on. I saw that a few times in a lot of the clips that I've been watching. Have also seen him bringing that ball down, bit of close control on his chest and using his physicality. That is a really big thing for me. He's not just your Peter Crouch type build. He's not 6'5" and quite small. He's 6'5" and quite built as well, which of course does apply to his game. Many times I've seen him beating strikers not only for pace, which he does possess quite a handful of, but also on that physical side of things as well. Brushing off defenders to barrage his way through a defence is something I saw a few times from him, which I think can be very beneficial for us next season too. Now, of course, having someone left-footed up front does provide a slightly different dynamic to what we're used to. Of course, in recent seasons, we've seen the likes of Luque, Patterson, Solwanjo Smith, Jack Barham, and Rory Deacon as well, all featuring in that forward line for Maidstone, all right-footed players. So having a left footer in the side may, of course, provide a little bit more dynamism up front, does provide a different aspect for defenders to keep an eye out on, trying to keep tabs on who's predominantly using what foot in a forward line can, of course, cause a little bit of upset at times, and that is going to provide us with another little asset up front, which we could perhaps take advantage of. But that is not to say he's not very good with his right foot as well. And again, something I've said in recent videos, of course, is how important it is to have players who can use both feet. And again, got another player here who can do that. He can pass with his right, he can shoot with his right, although not as efficiently as he can with his left. He's still got some good ability on that one too. So He's a very interesting prospect for Maidstone in this upcoming season. He's someone who's a bit of an unknown quantity, considering the lack of minutes perhaps that he may have played. Of course, make a lot of appearances, but it's going to be interesting to see if we want to develop him as a kind of a full-time player, getting 90 minutes week in, week out for a 46-game season. So his development is going to be something to keep an eye on as well. He's also got some pretty good footwork for someone of his size. Now, I know a lot of people hesitate to say things like that because, of course, you can't really judge someone on just their size, but it's not too common. You see someone who is quite good with their feet and also of the physical attributes that he does possess, but does weave in and out of players from time to time, does like a little chop in from the side if he does find himself out there too. So again, a multifaceted player who could provide quite a lot of different options for us up front this season. Now, last thing we're going to go on to before we wrap this video up is, of course, the reviews. What are people from his old club saying about him? Well, looking at his tweet from a week ago or so, he did end up announcing his departure from Brackley, and many people were very, very disappointed with that news. A lot of people had a lot of nice things to say about him, and just a few of those were always caused opposition defences many problems. Someone said they were absolutely gutted and they're sure they'll score plenty of goals wherever you end up. And someone also said, I genuinely believed you'd get us 20 plus goals over the course of a season if you'd stayed. Now, that is very good things for us. Of course, as I've said, with a lot of the other players we've looked at, Aaron Sibia, De Graft, Reynolds, a few other players as well in last season's outfits, it's very important to look at what other teams are saying about these players leaving. Are they disappointed to be losing this player? If so, you're probably acquiring someone who's going to be pretty good for yourself. So I'm very happy with this deal. It's going to be really interesting to see how Levi Amantchi does get on in this Maidstone United team. Another young forward player added to the mix for Maidstone this season. George Edakobi's youth army is very slowly coming together, and I'm looking forward very much so to the start of pre-season to see a few of these players start gelling and clicking together, ready for this National League South campaign. So thank you all so very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Do leave a subscription and a like down below. Leave your thoughts in the comment section as well, and I'll catch you all in the next one.